He was well shown when he wrote that.
He used to be a patient.
She was good.
You don't want to copy this notation.
Yes. You got yours.
See if there's a there.
Welcome everyone. I'll get my jacket on just to make it all official. We'll start with whakatauki if we can, please. So, Amudia kia whakalonga hoke. You know, as always, it's onwards and upwards. Welcome members of the public. Welcome Richard, media staff, everyone, councillors. And just so that everyone's aware, Richard's requested that we take a picture. Does anyone have a problem with that? Possibly we did it now, Richard, because others will be coming in. And or you tell me when you're going to do it, and I'll ask. Okay, so when you're at the segment or whatever, if you can ask, and because there'll be different people. team, welcome once again. So I've got Steve and Peter there. We've got the agenda item number 1. I think we've got it right. No, we.
Two missing. Two still to come.
I checked around yesterday. I'm sure there's going to be others coming. So
Simon was going to be.
Who's that? Simon.
You spoke to him.
No, he's definitely overseas. He's Wellington.
Yeah.
As you were saying, my other we did apologies. Simon is up in Wellington at a farmers meeting and said that he was going to zoom in and watch it. So I've got an apology, but he will be coming in when he can to view from Councillor McAtamany. And has anyone heard from Councillor Mackie? Oh, apology for Councillor McAtamany. Moving Councillor Kennedy, second Councillor Finch. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. Thank you. Anyone got declarations of interest, later urgent items? I think we'll just head straight into it. Right, first agenda item is Steve or Peter. Do you have anything you wish to add to your agenda item?
No, Your Worship, other than you'll note that the hearings program identifying some late cancellations is being circulated. So that is the new one that we're working to. Doesn't change, hasn't actually changed people around, it's just identified cancellations, Your Worship. And other than that, the report can be taken as read. And obviously the intent and the purpose of this meeting is to hear those submitters that wish to be heard before we move into the decisions meeting, which is a little bit further on, and for which you'll get a decisions paper report in advance.
Thank you for that. So just while I've got one run sheet in my hand, it's reminded me also there's a run sheet for tonight for the community awards. Has everyone seen the run sheet? You know when you're talking? I think we're all talking, so you know you've got your part to play. Thank you for that. Thank you too for Steve and Peter. Can we please, we'll just start ticking on through them. So I'll move that we receive the report. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Herbert. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, thank you. And agenda item number 2. Someone prepared to move it? Councillor Ludeman, second, and Councillor Wheeler. Is there any discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. And then just remembering that we've got the attachments and the endless booklets, although I suppose today it's really only one booklet. Can someone please move that we accept them? Councillor Payne, second, Councillor McCrosty. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. Right, our team, we're into it. Might help if I didn't have 2 lots of papers to work from. So the first, firstly, are we recording?
Yes.
So just everyone knows that we are recording. Our first one is Alex DeBoer on Teams. Is Alex there, Di?
No, we're putting one online.
So what we'll do, we'll give Alex a bit of a chance. So I'm willing to roll as we go. Do we have a contact telephone number?
Yeah, he's been trying to get
Right, so we keep on trying. I will have it though that we only take them in this segment. They don't turn up here, we're not squashing them, because if you're trying to run it in fairness to the organisers of the community awards tonight, so he's got until 10:20 or the likes. So, good timing, Stephen Jack. Don't get to sit there. So our first speaker's not here, so we'll just go straight to the second speaker. Welcome, Stephen. Page 6.
I didn't bring enough. I just sort of become a bit of habit to bring something. Lamb chops.
Beware of lamb chop.
I was lamb chops last time in the old carbon forestry malarkey was kicking off. So something a wee bit different.
Don't put them anywhere near Jock. None of us will get to see them.
No.
Welcome. Now we'll get into the official part, Stephen. Welcome. Thank you for your submission. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Thanks. Has everyone had a chance to read it?
Yep, you can take it as read. Every submitter's been well and truly read today.
Okay. Given that I've only got 5 minutes, we won't muck around too much, but I guess there's a couple of things I want to challenge here, and I'd like you to think about the surprises that are involved in this whole potential deal, be that positive or negative. In the write-up, the CDC write-up, Brian, you said that the more people who share the cost of water services, the more affordable they become for everyone. So if you think about that a little bit more, what that is implying is that there's economies of scale to be gained, or innovations that aren't currently being captured available to be attained by the councils joining together. Okay, other than that, it's a misnomer. Because why should the people of Gore be paying for the services of Queenstown, the people of Gore be paying for the services of Belclutha, etc.? I think the Morrison and Lowe projections of $44 million spread across 7 years, across 4 councils, is an underwhelming number. Needs to be significantly greater. So I'm not sure that those economies of scale or innovations are actually there to be captured. I've listed a number of potential risks, and over the last days been thinking about some other potential risks that I haven't mentioned here. One being the motivations of a new board. So what do you call it? The combined CCO entity board are going to be accountable and able to be prosecuted, I would imagine, by Tamata ROI if they don't reach their obligations. Now, with the water schemes, it's hopefully in the future it's not going to be so much of an issue, but we're faced often with the conundrum of quantity of water versus quality. So we have to turn off the treatment in order to provide sufficient quantity of water to look after the stock. So the stock, these schemes were set up originally. We've ended up looking after household water. We're therefore captured by Tamata ROI. How are those directors going to be faced with those type of questions? 1,000 thirsty cows versus a ball of water nose. I think that's a critical question. I can understand the rationale for wanting to go this way, and that it gives you the ability to lift the debt cap at 3.25% OCR with a 0.5% margin on it. It sort of makes sense, but the issue is that OCR won't stay at 3.25%, as we've seen. The interest payments plus the depreciation on an increased asset are going to mean significant costs. I actually think like the old GFA funding is through government. They're borrowing offshore to get it. Why not put this back on government and make it a non-central government? 1984, Gore and Belclutha had the highest GDP per capita of anywhere in the country. It's off the back of sheep and beef farming. We've now got dairying, and we're actually heading for a period of quite good prosperity in the next few years, but it's not going to be equally shared. So the people I'm really concerned about are the lower income earners in the smaller communities, like Tangatas, the Stirlings, the Kakapoinas, the Lawrence, etc. They're going to be faced with this. They're going to be faced with the increased costs. I think it'd be far better to make it an election issue and get a share of the hugely increased tax take that's going to come from this area. So I just really want you to be very cognizant of the surprises that are in front of you. Not all in the negative. Those kiwi fruit, they're grown in Hawaii. So
Wow.
yeah, I'll just leave you with that wee surprise. All right, any questions? Because
Questions, team? Councillor Herman.
Thank you for coming along, Stephen. So you may just mention there, just at the end of your submission, that you're concerned about sort of the affordability for people in some of these lower socioeconomic sort of areas. Wouldn't you therefore agree that option one, which potentially is going to deliver the cheapest water, is then the best option?
yeah, but it's marginal at best.
If there's $200 sitting on the floor, I think I've been down to pick it up.
$200 for another plus what? Because that spending, you're still going to be spending a shit ton of money.
That's taking all that into
Upgrade.
account. It's taking all that into account.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. It's taking all into account.
At a 3.25% OCR.
Well, the high tide rise, I can't argue with it, but the high tide rise or boats, the interest rate goes up. It's dear for everyone, or cheap for everyone, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. You know, like it's the old mice and men thing. We were promised a water scheme at, $400 to $500 a unit to be delivered, 18 months ago, 2 years ago? I think there's still a crate of beer on that, Jules. I mean, we're staring down the barrel of $1,000, and the bloody thing's still not commissioned. So, it's the old mice and men thing, the best laid plans.
Further, if someone else had questions, was it you, Councillor Wheeler? Sorry, can I ask just one, just following on from that, Stephen? We're a governance group. We commissioned a reputable organisation in Morrison and Lowe. You say you can't buy it, but we have to buy it. We have to buy something, and the figures that they've come out with, it was 44 million was their extremely conservative initial figure, but they have since then, in light of the new regulations coming through, the new regulators, they've actually said that it's more than likely that we triple that figure. But there are only indications. I'll put it to you. If we don't,
so they haven't put it on paper. They haven't put it on paper.
No, they have. Can I please, if we don't buy Morrison and Lowe, who do we buy? Who do we take the information
All right,
from?
let's just say you do buy that $44 million spread across 7 years, spread across 4 councils. Do you not think you can find $1.5 million in new innovation, working smarter within this organisation?
I can't get into the debate of things, but my question was, where does a governance group have to go somewhere? We've gone to a reputable organisation. If we don't take their advice, who are we meant to? You said you
Okay,
won't
all
buy
right.
it. We have to buy it.
Let's come back to my other point about the motivations of the directors of the CCO. How do you address that 1,000 thirsty cows while they're taking their $50,000 director's fee and meeting the government standard under Tamara Arawai?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. I think that's a fair
You
question.
know, I honestly don't think the risks have been well enough spelled out, and they are significant. 1,000 thirsty cows go dry at this payout, it blows you bloody $44 million away. Easy.
So further questions, team? Councillor Payne.
Thanks, Your Worship. Welcome, Stephen. Look, I just had one. You said we should be making it a government issue.
Yes.
Do you want to elaborate just a small fraction on it? Don't go too much into it, but just.
Well, I know one outfit will promise it. It'll probably come up.
Sorry, Stephen. We obviously have mandates and timeframes and everything to meet.
I know you do.
Well aware of.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
I have full sympathy for your positions, but
Yeah.
it's the farmers that are going to be paying a shit ton of tax.
No. Better pull it in the second time.
Okay.
Jolly blimmin', my mother used to let away with.
They will be paying a lot of tax in the next few years. That tax is going to be siphoned off for projects in Auckland, Wellington, who knows where. I think there's a really good case to have it spent back in the regions. The regions that are producing that income, housing the workers, the families, etc., in those regions.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. Do you know what could happen to this council if we don't have a decent water service plan in place, do you know what the DIA could do
Well,
to
I
us?
understand that, what do they come in with a commissioner or something?
And then,
And mandate you to perform certain tasks.
and then we might not have the governance over that. They might, take over, and then there won't be locals running it, which,
So that's the stick, where's the carrot? Because I don't think $44 million is a carrot over 7 years.
but what would happen, like, to the local running of that? A lot of the submissions have got that they want it kept local and run locally by us, as in locals, in the meantime. So what do you think would happen if commissioners come in? Do
you think they really would? Because it won't be just Clutha District Council. It'll be Gore, it'll be Central Otago. It'll be numerous councils, with the 72 councils up and down the country. So
67.
67. This isn't just a Clutha issue. It's a
But
nationwide issue. And to be fair, I think Clutha's water, as we found out through the Morrison Low report done on the rural water schemes, is actually in a far better position than a lot of other councils.
yeah,
So,
Further questions, team?
Just one, Your Worship. Stephen, you mentioned about the governance question, but in the consultation documentation, there was a whole section around having rural water as the fourth water to address some of those governance concerns. Do you have any views on that?
I can't say I read that, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, team. Thank you, Stephen, for that.
No, that's all right.
Take heart that once again we're meeting with Minister Watts. What day is it next week, team? We're all meeting with Minister Watts.
Tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? Yeah, good. Righto, so we have been putting it to them for timeframe extensions and not one penny, not one bit of money, not nothing. Slam dunk. We'll see you with the facilitators.
We experienced the same with the water schemes. So,
It's hard going, but no, sorry, I can't get into a debate.
No, but
that was just my closing
that's
comment.
why I say you need to make it a general election issue.
We don't have any control, Steve,
No,
of the
you-
timeline, but look,
Yeah.
we can't get into a debate,
Okay.
so thank you
Thanks,
for that.
guys. Yeah, thanks for your time. Enjoy your kiwi fruit.
take the roll back.
Yeah, I
Well,
will.
we're gonna take home with you.
Good job. Yeah, rightio.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well done.
Okay, how are we going with Alex? Is Alex? Someone, anyone, Beck?
No.
No, okay then, so that leads us to Alan Dixon. Welcome, Alan. Good to see you. Page 39, Alan's got his submission.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning, councillors and staff. Back to the future.
Back to the future, welcome back.
Yeah, it's a big decision you've got to make, and I do support option one in the sense that I think there's obviously performance issues and funding issues that may be overcome by a CCO. Funding obviously is lifted under a CCO, and I think with new rules and regulations actually meeting that performance will be difficult, and I think that smaller councils are finding hard to actually get the capital works done. So I think overall, the CCO is the logical way to go for most of the smaller councils. I'm not sure about the DCCs and Invercargill City Councils, what they're doing. I think Southern District Council is actually trying to go alone as well. But I think in saying that, I do feel that it sounds like the end of local government in the sense for the smaller councils, because I can see roading going, the next thing. Talked about roading quite a few years ago about having a hub from Christchurch. You're going to lose, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later on, you're going to lose 43% of your business and rates anyway. What's left? I want to touch on that at the end. Who should we be going in with? We have no connection with Waitaki or Central Otago. So the geographic spread, it's just too far away. We should always look south. And that's why I think we should, Gore obviously, and I think we should be chatting to Southern District Council. If they're going to set up a CCO, it's geographically spread that far around. I don't know how they manage that. But the experts will tell you they can. But if we're on this side of the Clutha River, I think we should be looking that way only. We're more in common with them. They think a bit like us. Central Otago, I just read recently they've just put in, it cost them $8 million to put in, I think it was put in metering, 8,000 metres. I don't know whether on our urban wood schemes we have a lot of metering, I'm not sure, Jules will know, but there's quite a lot of differences, and I think that looking south is a logical way to really group those smaller councils together, and I think we'd have perhaps more say in that sense. So I'm not sure how many, in terms of critical mass, I'm not sure how many councils we need to go on together, but I guess someone's got an opinion on that. I noted in the ODT article dated the 4th of June that the Southern would have done well. Information was given to the Chief Executive of Infometrics and got the big sign-off, big tick of approval. Bigger is better, according to the Chief Executive. But in reality, I'm looking at, they're talking about economies of scale and purchasing power and all that sort of stuff, but in reality, there's only so many contractors out there. There's not 50 contractors that can actually do the work. I'm looking at capital expenditure and operational. We've got a lot of, if we have deferred works, it's unlikely we'd ever be able to influence the pricing in the short to medium term. Who's going to do the work? The South Roads and the usual suspects out there, aren't there? So I'm not saying that I'm against the CCO, but I'm thinking that the benefits in terms of pricing won't materialise for a long, long, long time. Just won't happen. It's more likely in the medium term that contract prices will stay where they are or go higher to catch up into food works. In the same article, sort of following on from Stephen, I think Stephen Kelly, is it? I think. Stephen who? Jack, sorry. Yeah, the article refers to the Morrison Low report and these huge savings that are going to materialise by 2033, 34. It wasn't that long ago when, in the 1990s, we had electricity reforms, didn't we? We were told that competition in the retail supply market would drive prices down. That's a good comparison. This is what, if you look at the electricity reforms and what happened there, and where we are now in 2025, I think the savings and everything else, it's sold as a byline to buy into this. I don't think the savings initially going to materialise in the amount that the experts are telling us. From 1999 to 2023, electricity prices, retail prices have increased by 35%, inflation adjusted. That's 2023, and that's from the NBIE, that's your own statistic. I think I'm hearing recently that prices are going up 11% this year. So don't think that we're going to save a lot of money. That you won't save, you're not going to save a lot of money. What will happen is that the work will be carried out, performance, and the entity that's doing the work will have access to funding. Those two things will happen. I think that if you're relying on savings as a rationale for doing it, it won't happen. It will never happen. You only have to look at the electricity reforms of the 1990s. There's a parallel. And I note that in my submission, I did say that it's my personal view that you don't have the commercial ability to run in-house, to bring the water services in-house was a mistake. Buying a fleet of four-wheel drive vehicles doesn't make you a contractor. The optics on that aren't too good, in my view. So the year ended June 2024, you spent $11 million on bringing it in-house. That's debt funded. the chances of recovering any of that money is limited when the CCO is established. $11 million is your own figures. So when you're making decisions and rely, the mayor's saying that we have to rely on someone. Sometimes you got to rely on yourself to think things through, make your own decisions. If your justification is a consultant said X, Y, and Z, well, I don't know if that actually is strong enough in my view. And I hope Morris and Lowe won't use as consultants to establish the business case to bring the water services back in-house. I just want to comment on a couple of bits in this submission document itself. One that Stephen referred to. One thing that stood out is that page 4 of the submission document is the more people who share the cost of water services, the more affordable it will be for everyone. Well, not so much. The only way you're going to reduce costs is having more consumers connected to the existing water services scheme. And in a general sense, you need more consumers to share the price. Amalgamation of existing consumers won't reduce the price. Unless you get, so this is a wee bit misleading in my view, and I agree with Stephen on that. Unless you have more consumers sharing the same costs, it won't reduce the price. I said earlier that the reason for the CCO is not to save money. I don't think it will save money at all. Just on the debt issue, perhaps the way internal loans are done now versus external loans, maybe there's a different way that's done now, but I just want to make sure that any funds that are diverted from investments to loan funding for water services is actually repaid when it's transferred and the money comes back to council. You know what I mean, Jules? Yeah. So we're going to there must be a treasury function within council perhaps now where the money's brought externally, lent internally. Yes, I only thought about that the other day. So the funding mechanism changed a little bit, but there were some existing loans. If there are existing internal loans that were funded from reserves, in a sense, from our own cash, then it's important that that money is identified, refinanced and repaid on the transfer to the new CCO. I just want to touch, the last point is what's left and what will we do? We're going to lose 43% of your rates, but you're not going to lose that amount in costs. Some of those costs, overhead costs have been allocated to water services will remain. Corporate, I don't know what the split is. It used to be corporate management, information technology, administration building and governance. A share of those costs went to the water services. They're not going nowhere. What really concerned me was that statement that if council established an in-house business unit for water services, it would limit the amount we could borrow in the future for projects such as roading and community services. That really concerned me. The council needs to take a pause with just for a little, because people have gone through a cost of living crisis. How much? You can't debt fund everything. You can't, at some stage, until you understand what the water service is going to look like and what it's going to cost, and add that to your rates, get a total picture of the total cost refund, you really need to put a lid on spending, I think. Community services already has a loan balance.
Excuse me, Alan.
Yeah.
The 5 minutes is well and truly.
Yeah, I'm nearly finished. I'm nearly there. And some of my criticism is not of people, it's of decisions. You make decisions, there's consequences. But a lot of people I work with in the last 3 years, they haven't got a lot of money. Some of them can't pay their rates. Well, he's in jail. But just a bit of humour. Apart from essential services, in the meantime, I think that any other projects need to be put on hold. This is a major decision for this council. if you think you have to fill the void by doing something because you're going to lose a fair chunk of your business, I don't think that's the right rationale. Until you understand the total cost of both what's remaining of council and what the water services will look like, I don't think you've got any basis. You should just put a wee lid on it, don't do anything apart from essential services or whatever you need. What's essential, I'm not sure, but anyway.
Alan, we are going to have to
Yeah,
stop.
okay, well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
So, questions, please, councillors. No questions?
Again,
I welcomed your, you were the only one that said we should only go with Gore. It gives us another insight. Thank you for that, Alan, but, okay, councillor Finch.
Thank you. What do you think will happen, Alan, if we put a lid on it and go, we can't do this, we've got to put on hold, when we have to have this in by the beginning of September?
no, I'm not saying stop this process. I'm just saying that I think what I'm saying is that the CCO, I think that's going to happen regardless of what I say or anyone else says. That the Labor wanted to do something, that got disbanded in a sense, and now National obviously are following down the same track. I wasn't even aware of it actually. So it's going to happen. The choice is the own CCO in-house business unit, not going to work. For what some of the reasons I've said this morning. This is going to go. I think what you've got to is who you're going to be in the CCO with. I think that, as I said, I think looking south is always our best strategy, really. I don't know, we have nothing in common with Waitaki or Central Otago.
Councillor Payne.
Thanks, Your Worship. Welcome, Alan. Look, I'm just trying to clarify what you mean by take a pause. Are you saying that
Yes.
Sorry, Alan, let me finish.
Geez, sorry.
Are you saying that, hey, let's abandon the Surf Life Saving Club, let's abandon Wilton Pool, let's abandon all those big projects? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I think we really need to take stock of where we've got to, what's going to happen, and if you're going to do some of the bigger projects in the next 3 years, what is the rates effect of those projects on communities? Because you might be able to load up the water services.
Oh, well, we've done all those sums, so we know what they are already, so yeah.
Well, I'm not saying you should. I think that a pause would be a good thing to do. Rethink. I mean, this is the handing over the water service to a different entity is a big undertaking, and I think that I think stick to business as usual. But so I mean, you're the decision makers, but I'll be certainly pausing on a lot of things that would have a. Like, we have gone through a cost of living crisis, but this council seems to keep on spending money. I don't really get that part of it, but anyway, that's what's happened.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for that, Alan. Appreciate your input. Somehow, team, we've managed to do 40 minutes in the first 20 minutes, so we're going to have to, speakers, please, we've got to stick to time. We've got no choice in the matter here. We've got a full day with people coming. They'll be expecting us to show them the courtesy of us being on time. We now have Alex, so welcome, Alex. Can you hear us? Welcome, Alex. So Alex was going to be our first speaker. His submission's on page 31. Floor's yours, Alex.
I couldn't really drive all the way up, and I've got
Well, I might have to turn the picture off.
Cutting out.
You're freezing up, Alex.
Alex, we might get you to try turning your video off, and that might help with the connection. It's just a bit jumpy at the moment. Now we can't hear you, sorry.
Anyone read it?
You might be muted, Alex, now.
Turn the camera off.
Can you try turning your video off, Alex? Yes, speak. Try speaking.
Becky, do you have his cell phone number?
Yeah, he does, I believe. Yeah, he's
Are
got
you,
his
are you able to,
phone.
Becky, are you able to ring? I'll go to the next speaker. Hugh, talk Alex through while we go to the next speaker. Is that okay? Because we could be here for some time, so I think we need to push on. So we'll put Alex once again back on hold. Becky, Alex, if you can hear us, Becky's about to ring you. Please be near your phone and we'll try and work through your technical difficulties. We'll hold Alex for a tick and we'll go to our next speaker, Mark. Welcome, Mark. I saw you there. Welcome, Mark. So Mark's on page 112. Welcome. Floor's yours, Mark.
Thank you. Good morning to the Mayor, councillors, dedicated council staff and the members of the public that are here or observing through the live stream system. I'm Mark Taylor, for people who don't know me. I've spent the vast majority of my life in the Clutha district. Waka is where I was raised and Balclutha is now my hometown. Okay. I'm honoured to convey my unreserved endorsement of option 3, which champions the preservation of the in-house water service department to oversee the essential resource for the residents of the Clutha district in the forthcoming years. Community. This embodies the essence of the populace and represents the quintessential Kiwi values that we all hold dear. The in-house service framework, which was endorsed a few years ago, was a favoured approach by this district. It is directly accountable to officers elected by the public. The concept of a council-owned organisation does not resonate with me. An in-house concept.
I've got the camera off here.
Sorry, Mark. Yeah, we'll mute this in. Sorry.
Works really good.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I've unmuted it now.
Certainly have.
Oh, something like that. That's all.
Sorry about that, Mark.
That's okay.
Have we got it yet? Yep, we're done. We're back to you. Sorry, Mark.
Rightio. The in-house framework, got that done. Yeah. The concept of a council-owned organisation does not resonate with me. An in-house concept that possesses a comprehensive understanding of local dynamics within the Clutha district is the only option, I believe. We are custodians of our assets. Private enterprise will invariably seek to manipulate systems and other local values in their relentless pursuit of profit. The direct lines that exist within our council will be blurred. Our elected representatives have a close working relationship with all variables locally. The in-house is holistic, not pacific. Our values as a Clutha community are firmly integrated into our ethos. We value the employment of individuals within the water departments who reside locally and possess a thorough understanding of the needs of the community they are serving. These resources will be squandered for the benefit of a profit-driven corporate headquarters. Initial cost reductions should not be the primary focus. Profit margins and debt recovery pose a significant threat to our vulnerable community members. The notion of an asset transfer is simply not to be entertained. In-house teams can possess an array of skills and exhibit greater ability than larger, specialised remote teams. Responsive teams, a sense of ownership and a commitment to continuous improvement within the Clutha community are attainable through dedicated in-house teams. Furthermore, it is imperative to refrain from transferring or relinquishing district assets. I implore the Council to oppose the investment of external profit targets and instead allocate resources towards bolstering local economies through staff training, upgrading infrastructure, enhancing technology, and implementing best practices. I urge you to consider with an open mind the possibilities of in-house water improvements that have been seen recently in some of our districts. Upgrades is encouraging. I believe the road will get easier as the low-hanging fruit is managed out. Do not allow others to dictate our future. Please make us all proud of your commitment to the community that is involved now, the future community, and also remember the past community that believed in a democratic society that you have been entrusted to represent. Let us have a water legacy, not a liability. Thank you to all councillors, council staff and members of the public for listening and considering my passion for the in-house retention of water services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and I also want to thank you for the way you present your spec. I appreciate that. 10 questions, please. Quiet group today. I'll just, Mark, just one quick. Are you aware that the CCO is non-profit? There is no profit in the CCO.
I haven't read that or informed of that. Non-profit.
Yep, they're not allowed to make a profit.
They will be entitled to try and recover that debt they're going to increase, aren't they?
At some point, all
Yes.
3 options are going to have to recover debt.
Like everybody,
All
you've
3
got to
options.
try and recover it. And that could go up to 500%, correct?
The CCO can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Further questions, team? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Welcome, Mark. Yes, I think it's more of a comment than a question. You're
Are you sure?
touched on a lot of what we're all thinking, Mark. So yeah, thank you. Very good.
Thank you for your comment.
Fair call. Hey, look, if there are no questions, Mark, thanks once again for the way that you presented firstly, and that I know that you're putting a lot of thought into it, as we have too, and it rests heavy on your and our heavy hearts today, trying to work out the best of an option that, I should say also, it was the government that, because the first thing you said was the time frame was extremely tight or rushed. It is. It's disgustingly rushed, but it's not our time frame. So thank you once again. I should start thinking of our own time frames. I do appreciate your time.
Could I just add one thing?
You certainly can.
In the past, we've had some of these transfer of assets with some of our local community assets, if you like. One of them comes to mind is the Telford Training Institute.
Yep.
Transferred to Lincoln. It was a shocking outcome for our local community. And luckily, we come out the other end looking reasonably good. So I'm mindful that this water concept may become the same sort of thing for our people. And that's something that's history is not always dictating future, but it's important to remember what can happen.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, Alex, do we have to unmute Alex? Don't touch it, Gainer.
But I did. Yeah.
Welcome back, Alex. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, you're pretty quiet, but we can hear you now. Alex, once again, is that first one on page 31. Floor's yours, Alex. Only just.
Oh, just, okay. Well, I'll try the best. As long as you can hear what I'm saying, that's the main thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm certainly wanting to talk on the second option, where we have one council form company, rather than the third option, which is the council itself doing the job. The main reason being, I think the whole Three Waters thing has to be run as a business. It has to have an income, and it's got to have expenditure, and it's got to manage debt very carefully, and it can't have money being pilfered from it for other requirements. So it's got to be self-contained. And in that process, when I first saw the mayor's comments, saying that it's simply unaffordable and unsustainable for our communities and the council to keep the current system going. Well, I don't know how joining 3 other councils is going to change that. I mean, the expenses are still there. The priorities sadly might change. We might be not the beneficiary of all those priorities because funding will be thought pretty centrally. And the other big factor that comes into all the council discussions seem to be this being a bit afraid of the government and what the government will do to us and how they'll come down on us. Well, I had a session with Chris Bishop at Queenstown not long ago, and we spent some time together talking about all these sort of things, the RMA and other factors, and I can tell you there's a lot of change afoot to help with funding models. And I don't think we need to bounce into this with any major urgency, because all other councils are in exactly the same boat. And they're all complaining and they've all got much bigger issues than we have. You quite rightly point out that we've got a unique situation where we've got a small number of ratepayers and a huge resource that we've got to get these three services to. But the challenges that you point out, things like machines expiring and things like that, none of that's going to change if you join other councils. So you're not really resolving anything by giving our control over to other people. Apart from the fact that you've got other levels of management, you've got to get different people in, where are they going to be based, how much travel, the overheads of all of that. And we've seen it before. I don't want to go over my submission because I've already put it in there. You know, I've watched this with the polytechnics, I've watched it with the hospital boards, I've watched it with the Auckland City, the so-called super city that they call, rates just shot up. But I don't think there's any connection between those issues. And then we talk about water flows and so on, and increasing water flows that might be required. Well, really, we have already acknowledged in your opening addresses that 18,000 ratepayers and all the services we offer, that model is not sustainable. We need to have a complete rethink of that. We need to get a roundtable discussion going with really skilled people to say, well, what are the options? Let's evaluate them. I've just been at the field days, and the technology available for all of these services is incredible. And we don't need to have the model we've got now. And the thing that I really worry about is that this debt that you talk about, and suddenly in, I think, 2033 or something, it goes up to 50 million in 1 year. And then after that, it suddenly drops down to 2 million. And in the meantime, we're spending about 5 million a year. I don't know why we spend 50 million in 1 year, where will the contractors come from? But now, we've got other things taking over. We've got a huge debt bill to service. It could cost us 24 million a year just in debt servicing if we're not careful. So we've got to be very, very careful how we manage this. And just handing it over to somebody else and making them responsible. I mean, the only reason I can see why this council would want to do something like this would be the fact that they hand over responsibility to someone else. But that's not a way forward. That's not a way forward for our region. We want to attract people. We want to attract housing. We want to attract businesses. We can only do that with affordable energy, fair rates that are not going to murder everybody. We need to be able to control our costs. And I think we can only do that if we have control over our assets and we can manage those costs. I don't believe all this rubbish about handing over to other people. I mean, other councils are going alone. And what the mayor said at the public meeting in Milton and in Belfast a couple of weeks ago, he said, "Oh yeah, but it's all shared and we can hand it over to somebody else to do." It just doesn't work that way. That's not how business works. They will have priorities that you won't control. Yes, you can probably put your offer in and have a say, but at the end of the day, it's the common directors of that company to be formed that will decide whether we get the money or someone else gets it. The priorities of Central Otago are quite different to ours. It's a growth area, the biggest growth area in New Zealand. They're going to need huge amounts of money to put all those subdivisions together and actually provide those services. But is that the right way to go? I think we're on an unsustainable path. So you just don't keep throwing money at it. We're going to sit down and have a real good look, take all the issues apart. So one thing I learned at university was how to analyse problems. And you take every factor and say, is this an important factor or isn't it? And if it's not, throw it away and focus on the important things. And the important things are that we provide clean water, good storage, and control our stormwater to our local population. And we can do that, I believe, quite simply. It's not complicated, it's not difficult. You don't have to be afraid of the government. And let's go it alone and just be proud of what we can achieve. We might make a community out of this that everybody wants to come and live in because we're going to be affordable. We've got good land, good water resources. I mean, we don't have droughts in our area. For Christ's sake, make use of that. So I'm not going to go over all the issues, but I know what the discussion point should be. But all I want to ask council to do is to be positive, forget about joining other councils. I mean, the mayor said earlier that if you join other councils, the councils going it alone are making a mistake. And the more councils join together, the better off we'll all be. Well, history has proved that's not the case. Centralisation is not the answer. Decentralisation in this modern world of technology works far better, far more quickly. And the fact that you're saying it's going to be more affordable to do it that way, I would really strongly argue against that. Because Morris and Lowe might have vast water reform knowledge, but they've worked with the government in the past, and that hasn't exactly worked very well, has it? So, standalone, I think, is definitely the way we've got to go. Okay.
Thank you for that, Alex. We'll just go to questions. Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. Gaynor Finch here. In your submission, you have, we can lower our rates considerably and make our area attractive for housing and business. What ideas do you have that we can lower the rates considerably, please?
Well, I could talk about that all day and it would occupy that whole meeting. But it comes from the fact that we should review exactly what we're doing. We've got lots of pipelines. Pipelines cause problems. And everybody knows what they are. Wellington's full of problems at the moment with drinking water, and it's all caused by their pipelines. Getting older, leaking, bursting, all sorts of things. 28% of our water is lost. And we send a lot of our water down our bloody toilet. 25%, all of our fresh water that we pump up the tanks and take it to houses, 25% of that goes down your toilet. And, we've got to find new ways of handling grey water. It doesn't involve sending it down a pipe and then into a sewage treatment plant to be overflowed into a river if it floods or if it's a storm. There's a lot of things that we're doing. But in this modern world, people would say, shit, and you really, well, I didn't mean to say shit, because we are dealing with shit. But, but at the end of the day, we've got to do things differently and affordably and sustainably.
So,
if we get like-minded people, I mean, Dane can sit there, I can sit there, a whole bunch of us can sit there and actually make them pretty. We've got a lot of small towns. We can treat them differently.
So sorry.
Hold on, Gaynor, we're getting off track.
I was just going to ask, how could we supply water without the pipes?
Yeah, no, that's a discussion for another day, probably, because
We've got rainwater for a start. Rainwater's already as treatment clean as it can be, but it comes down from the sky.
Okay, team, further questions? If not, thank you for that, Alex, and thank you for persevering with the technology to get through. Appreciate your submission. We'll be back in touch with you. Cheers, have a good day.
All right, thank you.
And the last one we've got is Roger. Welcome, Roger. So Roger's page 25 of our booklet. Frequent flyer at council, you'll need no introduction. Welcome.
Good morning, your worship, councillors and staff. Obviously, you all know who I am, so I won't reintroduce myself. So firstly, I'm here to speak on behalf of the joint Rural Water Scheme Chairman, and we put in I know it's treated as one submission, but we put in a joint submission with our views after a recent meeting, and I'm sure you've all read it, but the 2 points probably I want to reinforce. Firstly, the fourth water, rural water, we strongly believe that needs to be identified separately to urban drinking water and the other wastewater and stormwater. That way, we believe we'll be able to keep our local committees involved in the governance role, which is vitally important for our schemes going forward. We believe in keeping the local government. There was also the other point was that in a combined CCO, we felt that there could be benefits for the 3 schemes that are very close to Gore as far as service delivery goes and getting contractors out to do maintenance work. The three chairmen of that area mentioned that in our discussions, and that's why it's in our submission. Other than that, everything else is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm happy to take questions on that.
Thank you for that, Roger. Questions, Tony? We've been here so many times with it. Hard to get a question.
That's okay.
Well,
Councillor Martin.
and it's probably more a question directed to the CEO and yourself, your worship. So what is the likelihood of getting anyone to recognise rural water schemes as a fourth water?
It's already happened.
Is the government actually acknowledging it?
Yep. As confident as we can be.
It's confident, so it's actually not in concrete that it is a fourth water.
They've identified the fourth water. What they're going to do with it is probably the devil is still in the detail, but definitely the fourth water's been identified. And like everything, we're whistling to their tune, but I wouldn't have it. Have you heard anything, Roger, Steve? I haven't heard that, yes, we're going to do a fourth water. We've worked blooming hard over 6-7 years. And I think the one hugely positive thing has been these guys coming through and having to take a bit of ownership.
Well, I appreciate that.
I don't
Go back to the original question. When's it going to be actually formally recognised, rural water schemes and the joint CCO and the modelling through Morrison Low?
We've definitely done that for us.
For us, yes, but what about for water schemes? Because it clearly states in their submission that they haven't seen any financial modelling yet. So how can we progress it if they don't have the information to make decisions in our formal submission processes?
So, through your worship, we were never going to have the detail at the time of consultation, the level of detail required for the rural water schemes. And it was well known at the time, and we've discussed that. In terms of the rural fourth water, it will be represented as such in the water service delivery plan. We can't tell whether the government will accept our plan or not, whatever form we send it, but we will definitely have a plan that has the fourth water being rural water. So that will be in the plan. It's up to us, in whichever way we do it, whichever decision you take, it doesn't matter which decision you take, there'll be an expectation of ourselves that we do a fourth water being rural water, whatever plan and whatever option you decide.
And that will involve the chairmen of the water schemes as such.
They were part of the ones that developed.
Yes, no, but in the conversations when developing it.
That level of detail hasn't been determined and will need to be determined post whatever decision you take and then prior to submission of the plan.
I think the foundation's already there, though, aren't they, Stephen? There's so much work that's been done. We've been doing this for how many years now? We're ready to hit a button.
Your worship, probably the biggest concern is what Steve's talking about. We don't know what the figures, and that's why the chairman are quite neutral on where it sits, because there isn't enough information to make an informed decision. And that's not your fault. We realise that. That's just the timeframes and what central government are not doing. So we've got to ride with that like you do a little bit.
But that also helps us form a decision, which is coming up very soon.
Just fourth water, please.
Further questions, take Councillor Bolwell.
Thanks, Roger. Just with regard to that, if CCO, if we did go with the CCO model, how would you envisage that relationship with the board, CCO board, from the rural water schemes? Would you want a sort of super committee there representing all the schemes to the board, or prefer the individual schemes?
Well, currently we have a chairman's, it's an informal group, and as you recall, when we went through the Morrison Low report on rural water schemes a couple of years ago, there was members of that group sat around this table and was part of that debate. So I would envisage something similar. We would need to have representation somehow at that level, so we have a voice at that table.
And preferably directly to the board rather than going through council itself.
Yeah, I would agree, yes.
Further questions, team? Roger, once again, please go back to the team as always. It's huge benefit having all these guys coming to all those meetings, putting their time in, and we do appreciate it. Please pass on to the guys our appreciation for the the cheers for the submissions.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also had a personal submission.
Did you?
Yeah, but I don't have to speak to it. Again, if you want me to, it was indicated that I might want to. But yeah.
We haven't got notes on it.
It's okay, it's fine.
Yeah. We've got time because we've had 3 cancellations. I'll go tight on your Rog though, hit me with your hot points.
Your Worship, there seems to be a lot of chatter going on in the background. Please.
Guys, going up. Cheers, Roger.
Thank you once again. I put on personal submission, and on the face of it, my submission basically says, if we had to, and on the information in front of us, I would prefer probably option 1, simply because there's potential savings. But there's a but in there. We don't know what they look like, and the timeframes around producing that are still far too tight. So whilst saving ratepayers' money is a big thing in my book, I still don't think we've got enough information around what the rules are going to look like from central government and how that's going to affect everybody. And it's getting back to the water stream as well. The big savings probably in administration, but as you said, we don't know what that looks like. So for me, there's not enough information, and I'd like to see more of it, and I'm sure you guys would as well. So that's my lot.
Questions for Roger, individual? Thank you for that, Roger. Appreciate that further input. And anyone here that's here, please join us for morning smoker. But Trevor, what I'll do is we are ahead of time. Totally up to you. If you want to wait for your allotted time, or if you've got a busy day ahead of you, what would you prefer, an hour or later? Later, done. Smoker time thing. So we've got no choice. We've got to come back at 10.